Hey guys, today we're not going to talk a lot about like what we currently have here. We're going to do some different type of videos, just here and there. And today we're going to talk about 5 of the weirdest, oddball, kind of crazy, I didn't know that was a thing, snakes out there in the world. Most of them we can't keep as pets, but, and their iguanas are making noise in the background. It's okay. But they're really cool, and I think they're interesting regardless of if we can keep them or not. It's just fun to learn about cool things. So we're going to start this list off with the tiger keelback snake. The keelback snakes are the only species of snake in the world that are in fact poisonous. So we get that term thrown around a lot. Anybody who's interested in reptiles, like under our breath we always go whenever someone says, "Oh, rattlesnakes are poisonous." Venomous. We always do that kind of a thing. But this is the only snake that's actually poisonous. Keelbacks, there's quite a few in the species, but the tiger keelback specifically, they live in Southeast Asia and they eat poisonous toads. And they have a gland that absorbs the bufotoxins that they get from the toads, that when they're attacked, they'll secrete the toxin, which makes them actually poisonous. That being said, they are venomous as well. They are a rear-fanged venomous colubrid species, so they're actually poisonous and venomous. But they're a really cool snake, and it's the only one in the world that's actually poisonous. Next on the list is, and these aren't necessarily in any particular order, but next on the list is the fairly recently discovered snail-eating snake. It's been kind of all over the internet lately. There's been a couple of videos of them showing them. And there are a couple people here in the United States that actually have, actually I don't know if they're in the United States, they might be over in the UK. I apologize about that. Someone will probably correct me in the comments maybe. But these are snakes that they found down in Ecuador, or at least these 5 new species they did find in Ecuador, that they actually eat snails. So a lot of snakes out there, they'll eat rodents, they'll eat lizards, they'll even eat other snakes and birds and things, but this snake is one that almost exclusively feeds on snails, and it's really interesting to watch them, where they're this kind of really thin-bodied snake that has this big head that will just come right up to a snail and basically just suck it right out of its shell, and those are kind of really cool. Not a whole lot's known about them. They're just kind of really crazy because it's a snake that eats a snail. Wee wee. So this next snake isn't actually a specific snake in general, it's an entire group of snakes, and those are the blind snakes. They're also called the worm snakes and the thread snakes. They are some of the most primitive snakes in the world, and they are very widespread, found all throughout Asia, the Pacific, Africa, as well as in the New World, spanning a couple different species and a couple different genres. But what they all have in common, they're really small, they're really thin, they're really kind of like worm shaped. They're all non-venomous. They have really sunken in eyes, and almost all of them spend the majority of their time entirely underground. They're really cool because we just don't really know a whole lot about them. A lot of them eat ant and termite larvae and eggs instead of eating rodents because they're really small. Like some of them don't even get over 4 inches long. And they're just kind of these crazy little things that, like, we have rubber boas here in the United States, which kind of look weird because their tail looks very similar to their head, which is a defense mechanism. These guys honestly look just like worms or little pieces of thread or like tails of another animal, and they're just really cool eyes. Go. Next is the stiletto snake. The stiletto snake is another venomous snake on this list. They're found in Africa. And stiletto snakes are kind of crazy, where they actually have teeth that kind of come out at a bit of an angle, where their hunting practices, they'll go into mammal burrows and they just go in and they just kind of thrash around, and they'll just tag all of the usually rodent babies, like the little rat pups and stuff like that. They'll just thrash around and tag all of them and envenomate them, and even the adults in there too. And then they can kind of eat them at their leisure, where it's a little bit weird. But they're this really kind of crazy looking snake because it's this kind of like nondescript dark looking snake, but it has these like crazy almost saber-tooth looking things where there isn't actually even an anti-venom made for that because they're very shy, they're very reclusive, they don't really get handled a lot, And because of that, they don't have a lot of interactions with people, so there's no real benefit, not benefit, but no real need to actually make antivenom for them. So you kind of have to go out looking for the snake. But the scary thing about it is that you can pick it up and they don't actually have to open their mouths to envenomate you. They just turn around and go whap. And because those teeth are those like saber-toothed, tiger-looking teeth, they literally just kind of like stick out of the sides of their heads where they can just kind of poke you like that. So the last snake on the list, once again, this isn't like craziest and weirdest, they're just kind of all interesting to me and I think they're really cool, are the sea snakes. And specifically, we're going to talk about the golden or the olive sea snake. But sea snakes are really kind of interesting because they are all members of the elapid family. So that's the family that includes cobras and mambas and taipans and things. But they all live in the ocean all the time. Some of them will come up on land and lay their eggs on the ground, kind of on the shore, kind of like a sea turtle. But they all live their entire lives out in the ocean. Some of them actually give birth to live babies out in the water themselves. They're all really cool. Some of them have like really paddle-like tails where that'll help them move easier throughout the water. They're actually not very aggressive at all. Encounters with people are very, very, very rare, which is a good thing because they're very, very venomous. They don't really come into contact with people because even though a lot of them are found close to shore, like the golden sea snake is found like kind of off the Great Barrier Reef most commonly. Sometimes they're actually really widespread. They're found sometimes even in the Northwest Atlantic and the Northeast Pacific, but because they are so venomous, they're also really shy. You really have to provoke them to initiate anything. Their venom is so highly potent and toxic it's 100% for helping catch food because it's a fish. All fish have this kind of like slime coating on their bodies, which kind of helps prevent them and keep them safe. And so even if you have teeth, if you only have they're not sharks, they're still a snake, that venom will help incapacitate and help digest their prey a lot faster than even some of the more terrestrial venomous snakes too. And that's 100% for aiding in that. I want to talk about the golden sea snake, also called the olive sea snake, which actually I knew was that originally. That's what I knew them as. They're actually really cool. So they have that paddle-like tail, which has very similar coloration to their head. So one thought is that even if they're like kind of going into like coral reefs and stuff and looking for food, their tail is sticking out. So it looks like almost kind of like a moray eel, or it's out looking about, actively looking at things, which is a deterrent for some predators because a lot of predators are ambush hunters. So if they see that this potential prey item is already keyed on them and ready to go looking at them, a lot of predators will be deterred from going at because that's risk to them. The craziest thing in my opinion, about these sea snakes is that they have photoreceptors on their tails. And photosensitivity, which means that there are cells on their skin which are sensitive to light. Pretty much everything in the animal phyla or the animal kingdom has some sort of photosensitivity. Even us, like we can kind of feel and warm up a little bit just based on the sun, but it varies in different things. But with these sea snakes, they have a really high cluster of these photosensitive cells on their tail, and scientists think that might mean that they can actually detect light moving across. So even if they're asleep or if their heads are buried into like a coral crevice or something, they not only can look like the head is looking like a predator, their tail looks like a head so that predators don't see them, but they can actually detect if something is moving across and will change the light through the panel through the area that it can actually detect that light. So even if the snake is sleeping, they think that maybe like if a shark or a barracuda comes cruising by, the photosensitivity of it can actually see that change in light as the body of this larger predator comes by, and it will recognize that predator is there, which is just absolutely insane. Like there's so much that we don't know about reptiles and animals in general that we're still just beginning to grasp, and those things are just really, really cool and interesting. We have a couple honorable mentions. I think they're all really interesting. I wanted to keep it to 5 because 5 is an easy number. But the elephant trunk snake or the elephant snake are really, really cool. They're these non-venomous species of snake once again, that are entirely aquatic. They're more found in like more brackish waters than out in the open ocean like the sea snakes. They're really cool because their skin looks kind of really wrinkly. And it's not that their skin is wrinkly because they do have scales. They're not shaped the same way. They're shaped differently to allow them to kind of hold on to fish better because obviously that's what they're eating is fish. And the other honorable mention is the kukri snake. I only recently learned about these things, and they're really, really cool. The kukri snakes are a type of egg-eating snake, but they're not the same as like the African egg-eating snakes that we've all seen where they come up and they just swallow the whole egg, and then they have like a little ridge or a little tooth in them. They'll crack open the egg, and then they drain it out, and then they'll regurgitate out just the empty shell. The kukri snakes are cool because they have this tooth in the back of their mouths, which is shaped like this knife called the kukri knife, which are used by these Gurkha warriors, which are native to not native, but they're in Nepal and Bhutan, and that's where they're actually found. They're found in Central Asia, like in Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, India, and what they do is they will find these eggs and they will use this kukri, really knife-shaped tooth, and they will cut open the egg and then drink it out instead. They are potentially a little bit more hazardous to people keeping them because they are available in the hobby, not because they're venomous, but because they have this anticoagulating protein in their saliva, which aids in them able to drink the egg contents out faster. That makes it so that way, like if it ever bites onto you, it's going to bleed for a while. So even though I think they're really cool and that potentially might be something that I would want to get someday, that's not a snake that I ever want to get bit by. Once again, not because it's venomous, just because it's gonna hurt. Hope you guys liked today's video. I know I didn't have any animals out with me, and it's mostly just me standing here talking, which I don't like to do a whole lot of videos of, but unfortunately that's how things go. If you had any questions or wanted to learn a little bit more about any of the things that I talked about today, let me know down in the comments. Check me out on Instagram and Facebook. jzsreptiles across the board makes everything easier for that. Hopefully we're going to have some eggs being laid here soon. Stay tuned for any updates on those. Please like and subscribe if you can. I know everyone says it on every single end of the other videos, but please hit that bell notification. It really does help me out. I'm not trying to get famous. I'm not trying to get YouTube to pay me all this money. I just want to be able to spread my knowledge, my passion, my love for reptiles and animals in general throughout the rest of everybody, including the hobby and outside. And it would be amazing if I can sit here and talk to you guys and spread passion, whether or not it's about animals or anything else in the future. Once again, I hope you guys like this video, and I'll catch you next time.